Have you ever been in a situation where you gave everything in a relationship, your time, your energy, your love, but somehow it never seemed to be enough? You tried to make her happy, to support her, to show her your value, and yet she never fully appreciated it. In fact, sometimes it even feels like the more you give, the more she takes for granted. And then something changes. You stop overextending yourself. You start putting yourself first. You stop chasing her approval. Stop being constantly available. Stop bending over backward to make things work. And suddenly, she notices. Suddenly, she realizes what she's been missing all along. And that's when the regret starts. It's strange, isn't it? Why doesn't she realize your worth when you're still giving, when you're still showing her love and care every single day? Why does her regret only come after you detach, after you've decided to step back and reclaim your time and your energy? This isn't just coincidence, it's psychology, it's human nature, and it's something that happens in almost every relationship where one person's value is overlooked, until it's no longer freely available. In this video, we're going to explore exactly why her regret starts after your detachment. We'll talk about the invisible dynamics that happen in relationships, the comfort of familiarity, the power of absence, the clarity that distance brings, and the fear that loss creates. We'll uncover why value is often only recognized in scarcity, why emotional security is often taken for granted, and why pride can blind someone until it's too late. By the end of this video, you'll understand that her regret isn't about punishment. It's a natural response to the shift that happens when you choose yourself first. You'll see why detachment is not a weakness, but a powerful tool to reclaim your self-respect, your energy, and your life. Most importantly, you'll realize that the regret she feels is proof of your worth, proof that you gave love, support, and loyalty that she can no longer ignore. So, if you've ever felt unappreciated, undervalued, or taken for granted, stay with me. By understanding why her regret comes after your detachment, you'll not only gain clarity about her feelings, you'll gain clarity about yourself, your boundaries, and the kind of love you truly deserve. Asterisk. Let's start with the first reason why her regret often comes after your detachment. Comfort in the familiar. This is a subtle but powerful dynamic in relationships. When someone is always there, always giving, always patient, and always available, it's easy for their presence to become something that's simply expected. Think about it. When a person becomes a constant in your life, their value can sometimes get hidden in plain sight. The late-night conversations, the emotional support, the little gestures of care, they all start to feel ordinary. She may not even notice the sacrifices you make or the effort you put in, because it's always there, reliable and consistent. Familiarity has a strange way of dulling appreciation. Now, here's where the shift happens. The moment you start detaching, the routine changes. The constant availability that she once took for granted suddenly disappears. And when that happens, the comfort she relied on is no longer guaranteed. She begins to feel a void she hadn't noticed before. The familiar energy, love, and support she had always counted on now become a source of longing. This is why comfort in familiarity is so tricky. When you're present every day, your value can go unrecognized. But when you step back, she's forced to confront what life feels like without you. She begins to notice the little things she missed: the patience in your tone, the quiet understanding, the way you always prioritized her feelings. It's only when these things are no longer available that their importance becomes undeniable. And here's the key lesson. This isn't about playing games or punishing her. It's about allowing her to truly see the significance of what she had, without your constant presence acting as a mask. Your detachment doesn't just create distance. It exposes the true value of your consistency, your care, and your loyalty. So, comfort in the familiar works both ways. When you're there all the time, it's easy to be overlooked. When you step away, suddenly the familiar becomes precious, and she starts to understand the depth of what she may have lost. This is the first reason why regret doesn't appear while you're constantly giving, but always after your detachment. Have you ever noticed that sometimes people only realize the value of something when it's gone? That's exactly what happens in relationships when you step back and create some distance. This is what we call the power of absence, and it's one of the strongest ways to make someone see what they've been taking for granted. When you're constantly present, always answering her calls, always accommodating her needs, and always putting her first, she may not fully notice the effort you're putting in. She might even unconsciously take it for granted, because it's always there. Your love, your attention, you're supported becomes something she expects, rather than something she appreciates. But the moment you detach, the dynamic changes. Suddenly, your absence creates space for reflection. She starts asking herself questions she never considered before. Why isn't he around like he used to be? Did I push him away without realizing it? What would my life look like if he were gone forever? It's this reflection that begins to stir regret. Distance gives clarity. When you're not constantly available, she starts to see the little things you did, the late-night conversations, the sacrifices you made, the support you offered without asking for anything in return. These were always there when she needed them, but now that they're gone, she begins to truly feel their absence. This is why detachment is so powerful. It's not about playing games or punishing her. It's about letting her experience what it feels like when your energy, your love, and your presence are no longer guaranteed. It forces her to confront reality, to face the gap you leave behind, and to realize that she may have taken more than she ever gave. And here's the most important part. The regret that follows isn't just about missing you, it's about recognizing that your presence added value to her life in ways she might never have acknowledged before. Absence doesn't just create longing, it creates awareness. It makes her see that the person she may have overlooked was actually someone truly remarkable. The next time you feel unappreciated or taken for granted, remember this: stepping back doesn't make you cold or uncaring. It gives her the chance to understand your worth, and more importantly, it gives you the chance to reclaim your energy, your self-respect, and your life. The power of absence is subtle, but it is undeniable, and it's one of the main reasons why her regret starts only after you detach. Asterisk. Now let's talk about the third reason why her regret starts after your detachment: the value of effort. This is something most people overlook in relationships. When someone consistently puts effort into making things work, their love and care often blend into the background. The late-night calls, the patience during arguments, the sacrifices made quietly, these things can seem ordinary when they're constant, but their absence suddenly makes them extraordinary. Think about it this way. Humans naturally tend to undervalue what comes easily or without resistance. When you're always there, always giving, your efforts may go unnoticed because she assumes it's just part of the relationship. She may even expect it, without realizing the energy, time, and thoughtfulness behind every gesture. That's why effort often doesn't get the appreciation it deserves until it's no longer available. This is where detachment plays a powerful role. When you step back, stop overextending yourself, and prioritize your own time and energy, the gap left behind forces her to take notice. Suddenly, she sees the little things you did all along the way. You listened without judgment, how you supported her dreams, the way you always went the extra mile without asking for recognition. That effort, which once felt ordinary to her, now becomes remarkable in its absence. The truth is, effort is one of the most tangible ways to show love, loyalty, and commitment, and yet, it is often overlooked until it's scarce. By detaching, you're not only protecting your energy, but you're also allowing her to see the full weight of your contributions. Regret begins to grow when she realizes how much she benefited from your effort, and how much she may have taken for granted. Here's an important point. Detachment isn't about creating drama or making her feel guilty. It's about setting boundaries, reclaiming your time, and showing that your effort isn't unlimited. When you stop giving endlessly without receiving the appreciation or respect you deserve, it highlights the true value of what you brought to the relationship. So, remember this: value often comes from effort, but effort only gets recognized when it's not freely given. Your detachment shines a light on what she lost, not in a manipulative way, but in a natural, unavoidable way. This is why regret almost always appears after you detach, because only then does she begin to understand the depth of what she overlooked while you were still giving so freely. Point 4 is one of the most powerful reasons why her regret comes after your detachment. She misses the emotional security you provided. Emotional security is often invisible until it's gone. It's the calm she felt knowing you were there, the stability you brought to her life, and the quiet reassurance that she could rely on you no matter what. When you're constantly present, always available to listen, support, and comfort her, she may not notice it. Emotional security has a way of blending into daily life. Like air we breathe, it's essential, but easy to overlook. She may have taken your presence for granted, assuming that no matter what she did, you would always be there to hold her up. But the moment you detach, everything changes. That safety net she once relied on disappears, and she starts to feel the weight of your absence. She begins to realize that your support wasn't just convenient, it was invaluable. Your patience, understanding, and care weren't things she could easily replace. And now, without them, there's a gap she cannot ignore. This is where regret begins to take root. She starts remembering the times you stayed calm during arguments, the times you reassured her when she was anxious, and the countless moments you put her needs above your own. She begins to understand that emotional security isn't something that can be taken lightly. It's a rare gift, and it's not always easy to find in someone else. What's important to understand here is that your detachment isn't about being cold or uncaring. It's about reclaiming your own energy and recognizing yourself. By stepping back, you're not just creating space for her to reflect, you're also showing that your support, love, and care are not unlimited. And that realization hits her hard. The emotional security she took for granted suddenly becomes the thing she misses the most. She begins to feel the void you left behind, and that's when regret truly begins to surface. So, the lesson here is simple. Emotional security is often invisible until it's gone. When you detach, she experiences what life feels like without it. She realizes not just what she lost, but how rare and valuable your presence truly was. And that is why, often, regret doesn't appear while you're giving your all, it appears after you step back, when your absence makes her finally notice what she had all along. Point 5 is a truth that many people fail to understand. Pride often comes before regret. When someone is too proud to recognize the value of what they have, it's easy for them to take things for granted. She might not notice your love, your care, or your efforts because she assumes you'll always be there, no matter what. Pride can blind someone to the very things that make a relationship meaningful. When you're constantly available, always patient, always forgiving, and always putting her first, she may start to see it as weakness or something she can exploit. Her pride keeps her from admitting how much she depends on you, how much she values you, and how deeply she cares. She may even dismiss your feelings, thinking they'll always be there, because she assumes your love is unconditional and unlimited. But the moment you detach, everything changes. You're no longer bending over backward to meet her every need. You stop chasing her approval. You stop sacrificing your peace just to make her happy. And in that moment of absence, her pride begins to crumble. She starts to realize that she can't take your presence for granted anymore. Suddenly, she notices the patience, understanding, and loyalty that were always there, but she never truly appreciated. This is when regret starts to appear. It's not just about missing you, it's about seeing clearly for the first time. Without the fog of pride and assumptions clouding her judgment, she begins to recognize the rare qualities you brought to the relationship. Qualities she may have overlooked while she assumed they would always be there. Here's the important part. Your detachment doesn't make her regret inevitably, just creates the space for it to surface. It forces her to confront reality, to face the fact that her pride may have cost her something valuable. And that realization hits harder than anything else, because it's paired with the fear of losing you for good. So, pride often delays recognition. It prevents her from seeing what she truly has until you step back. And once your absence exposes the depth of your value, regret begins to set in. That's why so often she doesn't feel remorse while you're giving your all. She only begins to regret it after you detach and let her face the truth of what she's lost. Remember, stepping back isn't about revenge or manipulation. It's about letting her see the value of what she took for granted, while also reclaiming your self-respect and your energy. Pride, once challenged by her absence, often turns into regret, and that is one of the clearest signs of your worth. Point 6 is one of the most powerful triggers for regret, fear of loss. Often, she doesn't truly realize how important you are to her until the possibility of losing you becomes real. While you were constantly present, she may have assumed your love and support would always be there. She may have felt comfortable, perhaps even a little careless, because the thought of you leaving never crossed her mind. But detachment changes everything. When you step back, when you stop prioritizing her needs above your own, when you start focusing on yourself and your own growth, she begins to sense the reality she never faced before, that losing you is possible. That fear, knowing that you are no longer guaranteed, has a way of cutting deeper than disappointment ever could. Fear of loss isn't just about missing someone physically. It's about realizing the depth of their impact on your life. She starts remembering the stability, the patience, the love, and the understanding you always provided. She realizes how much she leaned on you emotionally, even if she didn't notice it at the time. And suddenly, the thought of never having that again is terrifying. This is when regret begins to grow. It's no longer abstract or distant, it's personal and immediate. She feels the emptiness that your detachment created, and she begins to understand just how rare and valuable your presence really was. That fear of losing something she took for granted triggers a powerful emotional response, making her reflect on her past actions and the opportunities she may have missed. Here's the important truth. Your detachment doesn't force her to feel regret, it simply exposes the truth she may have ignored. By stepping back, you're not manipulating her emotions, you're letting reality speak for itself. She now faces the possibility of life without you, and that realization is often what sparks the deepest kind of regret. So, remember this, fear of loss is a natural response to absence. It's the moment she begins to see the full value of what she had, paired with the frightening awareness that she may never experience it again. And that fear is what often makes regret hit hardest after your detachment, when your love, your presence, and your care are no longer available on demand. Point 7 is about something very subtle, but incredibly powerful: clarity through distance. While you are constantly present in her life, emotions can cloud judgment. Love, familiarity, and daily routines often blur the lines between what is truly meaningful and what is simply taken for granted. She may not see the depth of your care, the consistency of your loyalty, or the patience and understanding you showed, because it all becomes part of the background. But when you detach, a shift occurs, the emotional fog lifts, and she starts seeing things clearly. Distance forces reflection. She begins to notice patterns she ignored before, the ways you supported her, the sacrifices you made, and the stability you brought into her life. The little gestures she once overlooked, messages of encouragement, moments of patience during arguments, the quiet reassurance that everything would be okay, start to take on a whole new meaning. This clarity often comes too late, but it is extremely powerful. She realizes not just that she misses you, but that she may have misjudged your worth. The things she dismissed as ordinary are now seen as extraordinary because the lens of daily comfort has been removed. Distance allows her to truly understand what she had, and that understanding is what gives rise to deep regret. Clarity through distance also reveals her own mistakes. She may reflect on times she was dismissive, careless, or unappreciative. She begins to recognize the moments where she could have shown more respect, more gratitude, or more love. But now, without your constant presence, she is left to confront those errors, and that confrontation often comes with a bitter taste of remorse. Here's the key point. Detachment doesn't just create absence, it creates insight. It allows her to see the reality of what she had, stripped of distraction, habit, and assumption. And when she sees your true value in that light, regret naturally follows. So, clarity through distance is a hidden force in relationships. It doesn't rely on confrontation or conflict. It relies on the natural process of reflection. By stepping back, you give her the chance to see clearly what she may have overlooked while you were always there. And that clarity, often painful but unavoidable, is what sparks some of the deepest regrets she will ever feel. Point 8 is a truth that many people don't fully understand. Desire often grows in the space created by absence. While you are constantly available, your presence may feel ordinary. She may assume that your attention, your love, and your care will always be there, and because of that, she may not feel the urgency or the longing that comes from truly valuing someone. But when you detach, everything changes. Suddenly, what once felt normal begins to feel extraordinary. The moments she took for granted, your patience, your kindness, your loyalty, start to stand out. Your absence ignites a desire she didn't even realize she had. Because humans are naturally drawn to what is not easily obtained, desire and regret are closely connected. It's not just that she misses you physically, it's that she begins to crave the emotional connection and the energy you brought into her life. She realizes that those qualities aren't easy to replace, and she may start to notice the subtle things she never appreciated before: the way you always made her feel secure, the way you listened without judgment, the way you prioritized her happiness alongside your own. This spark of desire often comes with a bittersweet clarity. She begins to understand what she has lost, and the longing she feels is intensified by the fact that it is no longer guaranteed. When you detach, you aren't playing games or trying to manipulate her feelings. You're simply giving her a chance to experience what it feels like when your love and attention are not instantly available. And that's when regret begins to take hold. She starts to see not only what she's missing, but also how rare and special your presence truly was. That longing, that desire, and that fear of losing you permanently, all combine to create one of the strongest triggers of regret she will ever feel. So, remember this: desire is often born from absence. Your detachment doesn't just create a gap, reveals your value in a way that constant presence never could. It sparks longing, it ignites appreciation, and it forces her to confront the reality that the person she took for granted might not always be there. And in that moment, desire turns into regret, because she now realizes just how much she lost when she assumed you'd always be there. Point 9 is where things start to hit home. The moment she truly realizes the impact of your absence. While you were constantly present, your influence on her life may have gone unnoticed. Your love, support, and guidance were there day after day, like a steady heartbeat, so natural that she may not have fully appreciated how much of her happiness depended on you. But detachment changes everything. When you step back and focus on yourself, the void you leave becomes undeniable. She begins to notice the moments she relied on you without realizing it, the way you always lifted her spirits when she was down, how your presence made her feel secure, how your advice or support guided her through challenges. Suddenly, the little things that seemed ordinary start to stand out as extraordinary. This realization often brings a mixture of emotions: longing, sadness, and yes, regret. She begins to understand the ways in which your presence shaped her life for the better, and how much she took for granted. She may remember moments when she dismissed your efforts, or times she assumed you would always be there to pick up the pieces. Now, without you constantly around, those memories carry weight. Here's the key: absence doesn't just create space, it creates awareness. She starts to see your influence in every aspect of her life: the stability you provided, the emotional support you gave, and the consistency you showed. And that awareness is often paired with the painful recognition that she may not have valued these things as much as she should have when you were fully present. This is why regret so often comes after detachment rather than before. She didn't truly understand the magnitude of your presence until it was no longer guaranteed. She starts to feel the impact of your absence, and that feeling drives home the reality of what she lost. So, the lesson here is clear: your absence reveals your true value. It forces her to confront the ways in which you shaped her life, often in ways she didn't notice while you were always giving. And it is in that confrontation, that recognition, and that sudden awareness that regret begins to take root long after you've started to step back and reclaim your own life. Point 10 is perhaps the most important of all. Detachment is not just about creating absence, it's about reclaiming yourself. Many people fear stepping back because they worry it will hurt the other person or make them seem uncaring. But detachment isn't about being cold or indifferent. It's about showing that you value yourself, your time, and your energy when you are constantly available, always prioritizing her needs over your own. It can send the message that your love and care are limitless, that your boundaries don't matter. She may unconsciously take that for granted, assuming you will always be there no matter how she treats you. Detachment changes that. By stepping back, you are showing, without words, that your presence isn't something to be taken lightly. This shift forces her to see you in a new light. You are no longer just someone she can rely on automatically. You are someone with standards, someone who respects themselves enough to not be treated as optional. And when she sees that, the regret begins to emerge. She realizes that the person she may have overlooked or undervalued is not only rare but also unwilling to settle for anything less than respect and appreciation. Detachment also allows you to focus on your own growth and well-being. When you step back, you reclaim your time, your energy, and your priorities. You start to live in a way that reflects your true value, independent of her recognition. And this independence, this strength, often becomes painfully apparent to her. She begins to notice the life you are building for yourself, the confidence you carry, and the peace you found without her constant demand for attention. Regret, in this context, is almost inevitable. She sees that the love she took for granted was not just a gift, it was a choice, a consistent effort, and a reflection of your character. And now, without your constant presence, she understands what she lost. But the difference now is that it is not something she can take back easily, because your self-respect and boundaries are firmly in place. So, detachment doesn't just create absence, it establishes value. It reminds her that the person she may have taken for granted is someone with dignity, strength, and self, and that is the final reason why regret often starts after your detachment. It's not about punishment, it's about showing that love, care, and attention are earned, respected, and never to be treated as a given. So now you understand why her regret often comes after your detachment. It isn't random, and it isn't about punishment. Each of the reasons we've discussed: comfort in familiarity, the power of absence, the value of effort, emotional security, pride, fear of loss, clarity through distance, desire sparked by absence, realizing your impact, and the self-respect that comes from stepping back, paints a clear picture of how relationships really work. Regret doesn't appear while you're constantly giving because she hasn't yet experienced what life feels like without you. She hasn't had the space to reflect, to notice the little things, or to understand the depth of your value. And that's the beauty of detachment, not as a tactic, but as a natural and necessary step for both your growth and hers. By stepping back, you're not showing indifference, you're showing self. You're setting boundaries that teach her that your love, time, and energy are precious. And when she begins to feel the absence of what you brought into her life, regret becomes inevitable. She realizes that she may have taken for granted someone who was loyal, patient, understanding, and irreplaceable. But this isn't just about her feelings, it's about yours. Detachment gives you freedom. It allows you to reclaim your energy, focus on your own growth, and live without being weighed down by constant undervaluation. You start prioritizing yourself, and in doing so, you demonstrate the kind of love and strength that commands respect. So remember this: regret is not your responsibility. It is a natural response to absence and clarity. When she feels it, it is proof of your worth, not of her failure to appreciate it earlier, but of the fact that you were never ordinary. You were valuable, and your detachment simply highlighted it. Let this be your takeaway. Love yourself enough to step back when your presence is overlooked. Give her the chance to reflect, to understand, and perhaps to regret. But more importantly, give yourself the chance to grow, to respect your own worth, and to live freely. Because the strongest love, the most meaningful relationships, are never about being taken for granted. They are about mutual respect, appreciation, and recognizing value when it is truly present. So step back, reclaim your life, and let her regret show the depth of what she had all along. And remember, your absence doesn't weaken your love, it proves your worth.